All right, this is a good time, though, to bring on our usual guest at this time in our letter from Wellington. The capital of our country, at the centre of most things woke, and a elected city councillor, probably one of the few Conservative city councillors on Wellington's Tony Randle, and he joins us now. Tony, good morning to you. I woke up this morning, Tony, as I usually do, happy with the joys of the world, and then thought, oh God, I've misread the date, thinking it's April Fool's Day. It must be. It's the 1st of April. But I'm now told that there is a plan to put a huge 4-kilometre tunnel under Wellington, which is going to take all your cars. And I thought to myself, what's the date? It's the 16th of April. This is wrong. But it's true. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. The Minister, Simeon Brown, announced that he's exploring the sort of cut the Gordian knot solution to Wellington City's congestion problems by simply building a giant tunnel to connect the airports right through to the motorway. He seems to think that that's worth exploring, and that was big news across Wellington, of course.
Oh, I bet it was. Listen, Wellington is a reclaimed place. You've got a little plaque, as I remember, on Lambton Quay saying this is where the shoreline used to be. And that came into play during the Kaikoura earthquake, as we know, because you had a lot of damage to your new buildings that were built on that reclaimed land around the port area. And many of them have been right off since. So therefore I'm thinking the water table must be relatively high anyhow. But that's sort of heroic, isn't it? As an engineering feat, that would be right up there.
I mean, the Basin Reserve cricket ground was originally going to be a ship's basin, a place where ships sailed in and docked. And it was only a big earthquake that happened in the late 19th century that lifted all the land up and meant it wasn't going to work. But it's still very low lying, and unlike the Waterview Tunnel in Auckland, we're going to have to build this one if we're going to build it underwater, which is pretty challenging.
Oh, a channel then. Okay. Well, it'll be fun. All right.
Don't get me wrong. I think if the government and the people of New Zealand want to come along and take all our car woes away, I am going to stand in the queue saying yes, let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody's going to give you free money, who's going to turn it down? But honestly, I can see New Zealanders queuing up saying, oh, please, we need to pay more tax for 4 kilometres of underwater under Earth Road in Wellington. It's not going to be a popular project, I wouldn't have thought.
Well, it'll be popular in Wellington City, and probably everyone else will look on with envy. Just like we sort of do a wee bit with the tunnel they're building up in Auckland, which has just consumed like billions of dollars.
Yeah.
We've got a smaller tunnel called the Aris Tunnel under our war memorial. That was built at $1 a metre, and so you can sort of do the maths with 4 kilometres. That's 4,000 metres. That's quite a lot of money. It would be great to have it, but the big question mark is who's going to pay, which has always been the big question mark with these big projects.
Well, the other thing is you're losing public servants hand over fist. You've still got thousands to go. Well, you need all this infrastructure in the future when you've got less people presumably living there.
Well, I mean, it's not just a potential loss of jobs. Look, I think Wellington City is still going to keep growing and be the capital and be a big employment centre. But we do have a whole lot of people who also immediately came out and said, "Oh no, we can't get rid of congestion. No, take a bike. Why aren't you cycling? Why aren't you on the bus?" And so there's even been, I've just heard on the radio, there's even people talking about taking the second Mount Vic tunnel, this much smaller project which the government has promised to do, taking them to court to stop it. this is part of the city. Wellington South and Wellington East, are the most, they elected Julian Genter and Tamitha Paul. So they're not exactly the most pro-car part of New Zealand, that's for sure. And so a car solution...
Yeah, but I mean, I understand what you're saying, except when I go to Wellington all the time, I'll be going there again soon, as I'm just about to explain later, but when I go to Wellington, Tony, there are a lot of people in cars, so I'm presuming it's a vote of its own, I actually don't see a lot of people biking in Wellington. It's one of the things that's conspicuous by its absence, are the lack of cyclists. And I see very few pedestrians walking to work. So I'm assuming that people must travel by vehicular means wherever they're going, and most of them seem to be in cars.
Well, I'll correct you on the pedestrian front. Actually, a lot of people walk to work. And the big advantage of this tunnel is that we've got essentially a state highway driving across right through our streets, and so they have lots of traffic, lots of hold-ups for people who are walking in from Newtown, from Te Aro, from Mount Cook. You look at those suburbs and you're looking at 25% of people will walk to work in the suburbs.
Oh, but they're all in the suburbs. I'm not talking about from places like Newlands and Kandar.
No, absolutely not. No, that's the other end of that's El Karori. I mean, poor old Karori. It's almost got like a single lane tunnel. It's really tiny. But it is. You're right. I mean, people talk about we've got lots of cycleways, but people can't really see the cyclists on them. And yet the cycling advocates have come out totally against this tunnel because we can't encourage cars, and it does show that at least some cycling advocates aren't really cycling advocates because they love cycling. They love cycling because they hate cars. And that's always been a huge battle. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I wonder, at the efforts that this government's doing to try and save people who don't like cars from the congestion that their blocking of improving traffic has caused.
Mm. Listen, the other thing I liked is that Nicola Willis came out and she talked about the cycling people. She said they've never met a car they didn't hate, which I thought was rather clever of her. But also your mayor, Tori Whanau, said, oh, God, even if that did happen, think of all the global emissions. So obviously your Green mayor's not in favour of it either.
No, well, she's Green, and so she's following her agenda, and the agenda sort of says, don't take your car to Wellington, and that's actually what we're doing. We're still. There's a place north of Wellington called Scorning Key. It's now a forest of orange sticks, where they've added cycleways across all the pavements and all the traffic lanes, and traffic just crawls through. Coming in from the south, you've got taking a whole traffic lane away for a cyclist. Yeah, I've looked at cycling is getting more popular, but there's still not a single cycleway that carries the same number of people as a traffic lane. In fact, they barely reach half a traffic lane at the most popular part of the whole network. So cycling is getting more popular, and that's why they talk about 30% growth. But when you've got 100 cyclists and then it gets to 130, I mean, the traffic lane will take 1,000 people an hour.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
So they never give the absolute numbers; they give the percentages and show, look, great growth. And really, cyclists have got. I mean, the sort of gift I talked about this tunnel. $4 billion to fix our traffic roads, which will be fantastic, and it is worth exploring. But cyclists have got their budget's like 200 million. Around Wellington, and they're still the council's still ploughing ahead. This is weirdness, but I did want to note that how quickly people started to say no, this is terrible, more cars, and yet it's the cars. That's the traffic that's been growing.
No, it's a fair point that you raised. The initial reaction to this tunnel was not it can work, not that it's going to be great, not that it's going to ease congestion. It was we don't like cars. I think that's a very fair call you've made.
Yeah, and so I'm sitting as a city trying to work with a new government, and really there's sort of a bit of a rule which says don't bite the hand that feeds you. And so don't look a gift horse in the mouth is another one, probably even more appropriate.
Yeah.
And so, Wellington City desperately needs some investment. Let's Get Wellington Moving was not going to be the right investment, but we've now got a government that's focused on fixing congestion right throughout the country. And, I just hope that the city council and the city as a whole will just, move so that, move the opposition a little bit so that people can still get into town.
No, fair enough. Listen, the other thing is, and it's going to be a constant refrain, it'll be story of the year, no question about that, are the public service cuts in Wellington, obviously. Radio New Zealand now running a story that $6.3 million in redundancy has been paid out at one ministry so far. Well, I think that's quite small, actually, in comparison with what it would cost to keep those people in a job, but that's just me. But almost 2,000 jobs across 19 departments have already been disestablished or soon will be, Radio New Zealand reports. But it does point out, and this is the staff who are going, that the staff who are going are pointing out, wait on, you're firing all the junior partners, but all your middle managers are staying. What's the story? And Nicola Willis has called in the Public Service Commissioner and said, what is the story? Good question.
Good question. I've looked at the actual numbers of cuts, and they're taking it back. They're not taking it back to the levels that the previous Labour government inherited. If a department is increased by 300, the cuts are looking at like 100. Like a third back, and so we've still got. It seems still going to have more people working under a national government than we did before Labour, than when the last national government was in.